Hi everyone, how's it going? Hope you're all enjoying the lockdown to the best of your abilities. Today I'm going to show you something that you can do at home without really needing to go anywhere. Of course, if you live in a city, maybe not possible, but even if you just have access to any sort of tree in your neighborhood, this is a project that you can do. Pressing leaves can actually be really fun. It's super cool to end up with a large collection of leaves that you can have. I actually did this in college because I took a class that did a project on tree and leaf identification, and part of that was making a leaf collection of over 50 leaves. And at first it was super challenging, but once I understood how to identify trees and how to press and preserve leaves, it actually was very fun. So there are a few things you're going to need before you get started. The first is some sort of way to identify leaves. There are many different apps that can do this, where you can actually just scan a picture of the leaf and it will tell you what it is. The best way is using a dichotomous key, and a dichotomous key is kind of like a list of questions that help you figure out what a leaf is, and you go through the list and it will say like, does it have leaflets? And you would say yes, and then you would move on to like a different section of the key. And that is the most accurate way to identify leaves. So some sort of book like this is probably your best bet, but if you don't have access to something like that, then of course the internet is your best friend. The next thing you'll need is something heavy to press your leaves. When I was in college, I used books. I was very happy that I was a big reader, otherwise I literally would not have had enough heavy things in my room to press the leaves. And you'll also need some sort of paper. You're gonna want to sandwich the leaf in between pieces of paper before putting it between the books, so that the moisture will be absorbed by the paper. I used newspaper, it worked very well, but if you don't have that, I also believe I used printer paper at one point, and that was not a problem. And finally, of course, you need the leaves that you're actually going to press. Dry them out a little bit first if they're wet. The ones that I collected were in the rain, and of course you can do any sort of coniferous tree as well, so pine needles, juniper needles, anything like that. The earlier in the season that you collect your leaves, the more vibrant the color will be. Of course, if you would like to preserve fall leaves, you can, but since they're already decaying, normally the colors won't retain as well. This is an example of a leaf that I pressed too late in the season, and then this is an example of a leaf that is pressed correctly. You want to leave your leaves pressed for about 2 to 3 weeks for optimum moisture withdrawal. I definitely had some leaves that were only pressed for about a week or so because I was on a academic deadline, but that's not recommended. Alright, now this is my leaf book. My dad actually made it out of leather, and just put a nice quote on it about fall. It's really nice. It was definitely the prettiest leaf book out of anyone in my class. You don't have to be this extra, literally just a notebook will work. At the beginning, I included a table of contents. All of my leaves are sorted by alphabetical order. That's just what made the most sense for me. So now I'm going to give you guys a little bit of tour of my leaf book. It's falling apart a little bit, but with each leaf that I collected, I put it inside of this paper. It has this like plastic outside, and then it was sticky, so I didn't have to glue anything down. I would just stick the leaf to the sticky paper, and then it was already protected by the plastic. And I just made these little cards that say the name of the leaf in the standard name, and then the scientific name, and where it was found, and on what date, and then just a few facts about the tree. So I have the American chestnut leaf, which is really nice, apple, American elm, slippery elm, green and red ash. A fun fact about leaves in general is that this, for some trees, is not actually the leaf. This is a leaflet. So when you're doing your dichotomous key, one of the things that you learn in tree identification is that when you're collecting the leaves, if I had just turned in this, it would have been wrong, because the full leaf is actually this entire thing. And there's a lot of ones that are like that. Same with the white ash. Sorry if you can hear the train in the background, it's quite loud sometimes. This is actually my favorite leaf, a big tooth aspen. The necklace that I wear is actually a big-tooth aspen leaf. Similarly related, we have the trembling aspen. This means that I identified it wrong, so, you know, happens sometimes. I only got a few wrong. I collected more than we actually had to, so it was okay. Basswood, similar to the trembling aspen in terms of style. Beech leaf, which looks a lot like the American chestnut. Black birch, gray birch. There were definitely a lot of birch trees. Luckily, they're pretty easy to differentiate from each other. River birch, white birch, and yellow birch. I really like how all of my birch leaves turned out. They preserved very, very well. They're very nice and forest green. Black locust, black walnut. So you see I had to fold the leaf in half so that it would fit on the page. A box elder, a black cherry, and you can see that I collected this one pretty late. It was on September 29th, 2016, and it's already turning yellow. It was one of the last ones that I collected. Cucumber magnolia, eastern cottonwood. You can see it looks very similar to the big-tooth aspen as well. So I was saying that you can press non-leaf leaves, and this is how the more pine needle type leaves turn out. Got that one wrong. European buckthorn, flowering dogwood. I know it might seem overwhelming because some of them look so similar, but the dichotomous key really helps you a lot. Hackberry, hawthorn, bitternut hickory. I hated all the hickory leaves. I think it was probably because they're so big, so they were annoying to press and just have sitting around my room forever, and they're just ugly and they all look the same. Shagbark hickory, a honey locust. These little tiny leaflets come off all the time in the fall and float all over the place, but they're really bright yellow, so they're kind of pretty. A hop hornbeam. I am almost positive that this is a Kentucky coffee tree. It's just that the leaf of a Kentucky coffee tree is like so long that there was no way I could have even folded it and had it fit on here, but maybe I was wrong. A Norwegian maple, a red maple. That's probably the most popular type of maple that you'll see around if you're just walking through the woods, depending on where you live. A silver maple, a striped maple, and a sugar maple. This is the other most popular type of maple that you'll see, maybe even more popular than the red maple. It just depends on, again, where in the country you live. The northern catalpa leaves are very interesting because they're huge, and if you've ever seen a northern catalpa tree, they have giant like bean sacs growing from them. They're quite hideous, to be honest. Oop. My pages are definitely starting to fall apart, but you can see this was 4 years ago. You can see how well my samples have been preserved, because if you press them correctly, that's what's going to happen. Chestnut oak, that's another very pretty leaf. Red oak, that's probably, this red oak and the white oak are the two most common oak trees that you'll find in the Northeast and the Midwest. I should say that everything that I'm saying is centered mostly around the Northeast and the Midwest, because that's the only tree experience that I really have. However, dichotomous keys can be used for any different species. It's just you have to find one specific to your region. Got that one wrong. Pawpaw. I just love the name of the pawpaw trees. It's a very, very cool, like, elegant leaf. A pear tree. A partridge in a pear tree. Eastern white pine, that's the most common type of pine that you'll find. It's very easy to identify because if you take off one of the buds, it'll almost always have 5 needles attached to it. Pitch pine, red pine, red bud. This one I found pretty late. No, it doesn't look like it. It just wasn't a very pretty leaf, and I think I couldn't reach high enough into the tree to get anything prettier. So a sassafras tree actually has 3 different leaves on the same tree. So it has one that has these 3 prongs that look like a trident, and then it also has the double and the single. I think that's really cool. Like, it's so strange that a tree can grow 3 different leaves that look completely different. A serviceberry. These are very tiny little trees. Staghorn sumac, not to be confused with its poison neighbor, the poison sumac. Did not bother trying to collect that. A sweet gum. This is in my yard at home. We have a sweet gum tree, and we also have the serviceberry as well. Sycamore, it's a really ugly leaf. I probably could have found a better one. They're really not that hard to find. Sycamore trees are very easily recognizable because they're normally super big and their bark is kind of like tan and white. You've probably seen those before. A tulip poplar tree. I love these leaves too. They're very cute. White mulberry also has 2 different leaves. I'm pretty sure this is the one that I was trying to identify for like probably 4 weeks of the semester, and I literally just could not figure out what it was. It might have been the white mulberry just because it's not as popular, or it could have been something else. I don't remember. Willow. There are many different types of willow trees. Just for our assignment, since they're really hard to differentiate from each other, we just were allowed to say this is a willow leaf and leave it at that, because it would have been too hard for us to try to figure out something else. And then of course you have witch hazel, which are actually way more common than I thought they were. And that's the end of my leaf book. I obviously have all of these pages. I kind of want to add more, but the problem is, since I did it alphabetically rather than by date, it doesn't make as much sense because I won't be able to have them actually be alphabetical anymore. And obviously some of the pages are falling out, so I could just redo the whole thing and move some things around. But yeah, that is my leaf book. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go out and press some leaves and make one of your own. Thanks for watching. Bye.